Your first $100,000 feels impossible not because you're bad with money, but because money actively works against you at the beginning. Alex doesn't realize this at first. All Alex knows is that years of effort lead to painfully little progress. Paycheck comes in, life takes it back. Whatever survives gets invested and barely moves. And that gap between effort and reward feels personal. It isn't. Right now, this matters more than people want to admit. Wages crawl, costs stick, assets sprint. People are doing everything right and still falling behind, not because they don't understand finance, but because early wealth follows a different rule book. So let's follow Alex. Early on, money is brittle. One surprise expense undoes months of discipline. A market drop isn't a dip, it's a threat. Alex can't afford risk the way rich people describe it. When you have little money, loss is louder than gain. Every dollar matters too much. That's the first uncomfortable mechanism. Risk punishes beginners. Now let's talk numbers. Alex manages to save $10,000 a year. That already puts Alex ahead of most people. It still takes a decade to reach $100,000. 10 years of restraint, 10 years of staying boring, 10 years where compounding is supposed to be working, but barely whispers. An 8% return on $10,000 is $800. Helpful, not transformative. This is where finance advice starts sounding dishonest. Just invest early. Let compounding do the work. True in theory, misleading in experience, because compounding needs scale before it shows teeth. Then something shifts. Alex crosses $100,000. Without saving more, without working harder, the portfolio grows by $8,000 in a normal year. That's nearly a full year of earlier effort, earned passively. No behavior changed, only the base number did. This is the moment the system flips. Before $100,000, growth comes from labor. After $100,000, growth starts coming from position. Money stops waiting for effort. It responds to presence. At $200,000, returns feel noticeable. At $500,000, returns feel automatic. This is why the next $1 million isn't 10 times harder. It's often easier, not because people become smarter, but because money starts doing the heavy lifting. Here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. The first $100,000 is mostly earned. The next $1 million is mostly exposed. Not salary, not hustle, exposure to assets that scale brutally well. Two people can make the same choices, show the same discipline, work the same hours, and end up worlds apart because one crossed an invisible line earlier. Timing matters, survival matters, luck matters more than we like to admit. Zoom out further. This isn't just personal finance. When assets grow faster than wages, ownership becomes the dividing line. The system doesn't reward effort first, it rewards endurance first. That's the real cost of the first $100,000. Not intelligence, not motivation, stability. The ability to stay invested long enough for the math to change sides. Most people don't fail because they quit too early. They fail because the early phase demands too much patience with too little feedback. And here's the irony. The habits that build the first $100,000 are not the habits that grow the next $1 million. Early wealth is about restraint. Later wealth tolerates comfort. So when people compare themselves to those already ahead, they're comparing two different games. Alex didn't discover a secret. Alex crossed a threshold. And if that threshold is this powerful, what happens to everyone who never reaches it? That question matters far beyond money. Because once you ask that question, you stop looking at wealth as a scoreboard and start seeing it as a filter that quietly decides who gets to benefit from patience and who runs out of it. The early phase doesn't just slow people down, it tests their stability. It tests whether they can survive volatility without being forced out, whether they can absorb one bad year, one medical bill, one layoff, one market panic. Not everyone gets that luxury. And this is why advice alone never closes the gap. Knowing what to do doesn't guarantee the ability to keep doing it. We like to believe wealth is about correct decisions, but in the beginning, it's about durability. Who can stay exposed long enough for randomness to finally turn friendly? Who can hold through boredom, through doubt, through years where progress feels theoretical? That's why the first $100,000 doesn't just change numbers, it changes behavior. Fear softens, time horizons expand, risk stops feeling existential. And from the outside, this looks like confidence or skill. But underneath, it's mostly relief. Relief that mistakes are survivable. Relief that volatility is no longer fatal. Which is why people who've crossed that line often underestimate how brutal it was before. They remember the math, but forget the pressure. And when those two are confused, judgment replaces understanding. So if the system rewards endurance before insight, then inequality isn't just about effort. It's about who can endure long enough for effort to finally compound. That doesn't make success illegitimate, but it does make comparison incomplete. Because not everyone starts on equal ground, and not everyone is allowed the same margin for error. Once you see that, wealth stops looking like a morality test and starts looking like a structural process, one that quietly amplifies small early advantages and punishes early fragility. Which brings us back to Alex. Alex didn't win. Alex didn't outsmart the system. Alex simply stayed solvent long enough to let the math stop working against him. And that's the part worth questioning, not who succeeded, but how many never made it past the phase where effort is loud and reward is silent. That question doesn't just matter for money, it matters for how we judge people, how we design systems, and how we define success in a world where the hardest part comes first. And once you understand that, another uncomfortable truth comes into focus. The system doesn't collapse people all at once. It applies pressure slowly, quietly. Small frictions that don't look dramatic on their own, but compound over time in the wrong direction. Fees, delays, bad timing, forced withdrawals, moments where survival requires undoing progress. Individually, these don't look like failure. Collectively, they stop momentum from ever forming. This is why so many people feel stuck in place, even while moving forward. They are progressing, just not fast enough to escape the fragile zone. And the fragile zone is expensive. It taxes attention, it taxes patience, it taxes decision-making. When money is tight, every choice carries weight. Every mistake echoes longer than it should, which means the early stage doesn't just limit capital, it limits psychological bandwidth. You're not just managing money, you're managing anxiety. That constant pressure changes behavior. People play defense instead of offense. They optimize for safety instead of opportunity. And from the outside, this looks like conservatism or fear. But from the inside, it's logic. Because when downside is asymmetric, caution isn't weakness, it's adaptation. This is why most people don't stall because they lack ambition. They stall because the environment rewards caution early and momentum late. By the time momentum appears, only a fraction of people are still standing, which reframes the whole conversation. Success isn't just about taking the right actions, it's about being in the right condition when those actions finally start paying off. That's why stories of overnight success feel dishonest. They compress years of endurance into a single visible outcome. But for the people living through it, nothing felt overnight at all. It felt slow, uncertain, and fragile, until one day it didn't. And that shift, that quiet transition from fragile to durable, is what the first $100,000 actually represents. Not wealth, not freedom, durability. The ability to make a mistake and recover. The ability to wait without panicking. The ability to let time work instead of constantly fighting it. Once that happens, the system finally behaves the way people promised it would. And that's why the first $100,000 carries so much weight, because it's not just the hardest money to make, it's the money that changes how the game treats you. If this kind of breakdown helped you see the system more clearly, tap like so more people actually see it. Subscribe if you want explainers that don't insult your intelligence. And comment below, do you think the first $100,000 is getting harder or easier for this generation? I read the comments.